Chapter 631. Heaven and earth were the sea. The explosion was the wind. And everyone was a small boat in the raging sea, being hit by the monstrous waves and flying around dizzily. It seemed like a long time, but it also seemed like only a moment had passed. In the midst of this earth-shattering storm, people had lost all sense of time. Finally, the world calmed down, the storm subsided, and a ray of sunlight pierced through the dark clouds. Everyone looked up and was shocked to find a huge black hole hanging in the sky, swallowing the light. They broke the sky. Is this something that can be done with human power? As expected of the top 4 of the World Ninja Tournament, Tonari and the other 2 weren't affected by these discussions. After a strong collision, the 3 quickly fought again. However, some people were affected by their battle. Deep underground, Niji's eyes were wide and round. No, I'm going to burst. He originally planned to stop while he was ahead and run away after freeloading the power of the old ancestor. But who knew that the battle of those bastards in the sky seriously affected the stability of the moon's space? The stability of the moon's space was destroyed, causing the power output of Kagaya to suddenly increase by several times. When he reacted, some parts of his body had already undergone some changes. This discovery made Niji's scalp tingle. He didn't want to be sisters with TNT on. No, I have to vent this power quickly. Thinking of this, Niji no longer hesitated and rushed out of the ruins and jumped into the sky like a rocket. I'm back. The people fighting below were shocked by Niji, who suddenly jumped out of the ground. Niji, isn't he dead? Even if he's not dead, he shouldn't be so lively now, right? I know. It must be the secret recovery technique that the leader taught Niji. Amazing, but is it my illusion? I always feel that Niji's voice seems to have become sharper. Hearing Niji's announcement of his return, the 3 people in the sky had different reactions. Niji, this guy. I knew he wouldn't die. Naruto was excited. Was Niji infected by Naruto? He could have hidden and attacked. Sasuke thought in his heart. He's not dead. Chunrin frowned, but soon realized that something was wrong. Wait, his chakra seems to be. Niji, let me create an opportunity this time. Naruto shouted, but Niji had no intention of communicating with him about countermeasures. He directly entered the Hashiman Tonka mode, and then attacked Tonari without stopping. Naruto was confused. Why did he feel like Niji was being chased by something dirty? Why was he so anxious? Tonari dealt with Niji's attacks with ease. After combining Hamura and Jubi's chakra, his strength was incomparable to a few minutes ago. However, his expression did not look good. He had been strengthened, but Ningji and the other 2 had also been strengthened. His combat strength changed every few minutes, making him feel unreal. Was everyone really using cheats? This sense of déjà vu was especially strong for One Piece. The combination of the 2 Otsutsuki greatly increased their strength in a short period of time. But what about after coming to the battlefield? Everyone's strength skyrocketed. Aizen and Shimizu Garashi's strength skyrocketed in a few days. Even their disciples' strength skyrocketed. And it wasn't enough to skyrocket once, but twice. At this moment, he had a deeper understanding of Aizen and Shimizu's approach. This war not only stimulated the 2 of them, but also stimulated everyone's potential. Thinking of this, One Piece took a deep breath. No, I have to force out my own potential. With the addition of Niji, the situation once again tilted to the Alliance's side. Tonari was helpless. It was really difficult for him to do it alone. Although he can rely on his space ability to move around and try his best to stay undefeated, the space ability consumes too much chakra, and his chakra is not infinite. Every time he returns to the spring to recuperate, the battle line will be pushed back by more than 10 kilometers. After 3 days, the battlefield had moved from the center of the 3 forces to the spring of Hollow. What's worse, the 3 days and 3 nights of high-intensity fighting had pushed the 3 forces to their limits. Although the spring could restore physical strength and spirit, it couldn't calm the tense heartstrings. The Alliance could still rely on their willpower, but the White Zetsu army didn't have such faith. They had already reached their limit. Damn it! Are we going to lose? Karen's small face was full of unwillingness. Although they lost, it didn't mean Hollow lost. In the end, it all depended on the battle between the 3 leaders. But the first to enter the battlefield would undoubtedly lose the initiative and become the prey. Thinking of Aizen's disappointment and disgust, Karen was in pain. Sasori controlled the puppets to self-destruct, but he still couldn't stop the enemy. He sighed. I've been indebted to him for so many years. This time, I'll pay him back with my life. Just as Hollow's people lost hope, Tonari suddenly flew towards Niji. It's not over yet. Niji, who had vented some of his power, returned to normal. He was carefully guarding against the old ancestor's remaining power. Seeing Tonari flying towards him, he subconsciously threw a punch. Tonari didn't defend. He gritted his teeth and took the punch, then held Niji's fist tightly. I'll give it to you. What? Niji was puzzled. Suddenly, he felt a powerful force flowing from Tonari's chest into his body. This is Jubi. Not good. Niji's face changed greatly. His body resisted, trying to expel this force. However, the part of Kagaya's chakra that had been dormant suddenly erupted. Like a bottomless black hole, it pulled the Jubi in. Niji quickly lost control of his body. The next moment, his body was kneaded and reshaped like dough. Her hair turned from black to white, and her long hair reached her waist. Her body became curvaceous, and her face was cold and noble. She was like a goddess coming out of a world of ice and snow. The Alliance's people, who were originally full of confidence, were stunned as they looked at Niji. Niji turned into a woman. Gulp. So beautiful. Is this the harem jutsu that Niji learned from Naruto? Damn it, it's too unprofessional. Yes, he didn't reveal anything that should be revealed. How can we criticize him? Compared to everyone's relaxed mood, Naruto and Sasuke looked dignified. With the memory of the parallel world, they naturally knew that this woman wasn't Niji's transformation. She was the demon who once ruled this land, Otsutsuki Kagaya. Ikemomo was also stunned. He looked at Tonari and gritted his teeth. This bastard dared to sell my Jubi? Chapter 632. Tonari was weaker than him, and had no experience in planting trees. But Kagaya was different. Kagaya was stronger than him, and had plenty of experience in planting trees. If he wasn't careful, he could turn from the fisherman to the one being fished. Therefore, when she saw Kagaya swallow the bait he threw to Tonari, her first reaction was anger. But he quickly calmed down, and his eyes flashed. If I can't catch a small fish, catching a big one might be a good choice. After all, Kagaya had only used a portion of his power. Even with the 10-tailed chakra in Niji's body, he was still not as strong as when he was at his peak. Remembering that he wanted to force out his potential, Itao finally made up his mind. Aizen and Shimizu will definitely deal with me first. Rather than let them target me, it's better for me to join the fray. Anyway, I have dragon form behind me, so it shouldn't be a problem. Black Zetsu was ecstatic. He never thought that he would see his mother under such circumstances. But just as he was about to put on a show of affection between mother and son, he hesitated. Based on his understanding of this world, his mother's time had long passed. She was most likely no match for those monsters. If he rushed out now, he might end up being sealed with his mother. Anyway, I can't do anything. Let's wait and see. I finally returned to this world. Kagaya sighed, then looked coldly at the 6 paths. Yui, can you understand the loneliness of being sealed for 1,000 years? The 6 paths was silent for a moment, but soon his eyes were firm. For the future of this world, please enter the seal again. Good, as expected of my good son. Tonari said, you and the 6 paths are enemies, and the person you're occupying is an important person on their side. Cooperating with us is the best choice. But Kagaya didn't appreciate it. Are you telling me what to do? That's not what I meant. Without waiting for Tonari to finish, Kagaya's cold gaze swept across the 3 parties. Your chakra should be mine. Now return it to its rightful owner. Kagaya flicked her long hair behind her back. Her hair shot out in all directions like thin needles, and screams sounded one after another. Bastard! How dare you sneak attack us? Kill her first. Facing the fury of all sides, Hui casually threw out a punch. 80 divine air strikes. His jade-white fist struck the air, instantly creating a shockwave as powerful as a meteor crashing down. The ninjas who were a little closer were torn apart by the shockwave, and the ninjas who were far away were also blown away. All of a sudden, the three camps were filled with wails and cries. Seeing Huey skillfully activate the mode of making the world his enemy, a great number of question marks appeared above Hunran's head. Was there something wrong with the ancestor? He risked his life to bring back a powerful fighter, not a lunatic who couldn't differentiate between friend and foe. Most importantly, it was no longer the time 1,000 years ago when she could take on the entire world by herself. In fact, Hui had also sensed that something was wrong. In such a small battlefield, there were 6 or 7 Otsutsuki-level combatants. Even the strength of the cannon fodder in her eyes can't be underestimated. Even she can't ignore the combination of ninjutsu used in the formation. Were these still the weak humans in her memory? However, from the perspective of Harvest, it was also a good thing. Very good. It seems that my seedbed hasn't been abandoned in the past 1,000 years. Huiya's voice was cold, and she looked at Rakuto mockingly. You've helped me cultivate it well. Rakuto sighed. Using the world as a farm, mother. How far do you want to go on this wrong path? Huey seemed to be impatient listening, and the Rinnegan on her forehead flashed. Heaven's defense. She didn't transfer everyone to the origin sphere, but opened the door to the subsidiary space in the sky. Through the door, everyone saw that behind the door was connected to a world. In the next moment, a world of magma, ice, snow, gravel, and acid poured down from the sky. Seeing this situation, everyone turned pale with fright. Is she going to destroy this world? Stop her. The three camps put aside their prejudices and temporarily joined forces. Rakuto extended the truth-seeking ball infinitely, like an ultra-thin soup dumpling skin that had been flattened countless times, and then wrapped all kinds of fillings in it. Naruto and Sasuke seemed to have practiced it countless times, and they cooperated tacitly to attack Huey. Huey looked indifferent, raised her hands, and 2 bone sticks drilled out of her palms and shot at the two. Kill Grey Bones. However, Naruto and Sasuke seemed to see through her attack. The moment she shot out the bone sticks, Sasuke used heavenly hand power to exchange the 2 of them with the bone sticks. The 2 instantly appeared in front of Huey, and while Huey didn't react, one pressed Rasengan to Huey's cheek, and the other kicked Huey's waist with Chidori. Boom! Huey was knocked upside down, and after standing firm, she quickly clenched her fist and attacked the 2. However, Naruto and Sasuke seemed to have known that she would do this, and they dodged the attack as if they had foreseen it, and then rushed forward to attack. After being knocked out again, Huey finally felt that something was wrong. Why did it feel like these 2 brats had fought with her before? Why were they so familiar with her fighting style? Seeing Huey so unbearable, the last bit of luck in Tonari's heart disappeared, and he simply changed his mind. Since she's unreliable, why don't I join the battle and find a chance to snatch her power? Thinking of this, Tonari hit Huey with a silver wheel reincarnation explosion. After losing Jubi, although his strength decreased a lot, he was still strong, and his addition instantly doubled the pressure on Huey. 1,000 years ago, it was Hamura and Hagoromo, and 1,000 years later, it's their descendants. Huey's voice was faint. What a good descendant of Aijia. Since you don't want to hand over chakra, then I'll have to take it myself. With that said, Huey materialized Jubi, and with the spring water as nutrients, the originally young sacred tree grew rapidly. Then, the roots at the bottom of the sacred tree stretched out from the ground and caught everyone on the battlefield like tentacles. Naruto reacted quickly. Tonari, you cut off the roots, Sasuke and I will cut off the sacred tree. Tonari looked at the spring water occupied by Huey with hatred. I will. You want to cut off the sacred tree? I won't give you a chance. Huey waved her sleeve and transferred Naruto and Sasuke to 2 spaces in Heaven's defense. She didn't expect Heaven's defense to trap them for long. As long as she could buy some time, it would be enough. But the moment she launched Heaven's defense, a small dust-like figure suddenly grew larger, and then hit her heavily. Huey spat out a large mouthful of blood, looking at the enemy who attacked her, and her face became very ugly. Ichiki. No, you're a combination of Ichiki and another person? Ichiki's voice came out of Ichiki's mouth, and she was extremely happy. You betrayed and attacked me back then, and today I'm finally getting back some interest. Chapter 633. Even Kagaya felt numb when she saw Ikemomo appear. What was going on in this era? Even in the Otsutsuki clan, such a powerful force was rare. Under the repeated attacks, Kagaya's mind that was suppressed by the kami system began to recover. Damn it! I should have broken the moon first and saved the main body. However, she also knew that the strengthened moon wasn't so easy to break. Even if she could restrain herself, it was impossible to break the moon in front of so many people. Kagaya calmed down and thought seriously. This era is still too strange for me. I need to figure out how many people are still hiding in the dark. Thinking of this, Kagaya projected her perception on the god tree, and used the branches of the god tree to spread out her perception. Seeing that Kagaya was silent, Ikemomo continued to provoke her. Do you still remember what I said? I curse you to suffer the pain of betrayal by someone close to you. Kagaya's expression was calm. I never remember the bark of a loser. Rikudo was surprised. Why did he feel that his mother was more normal? According to the previous situation, betrayal seemed to be a taboo for his mother. She shouldn't be so calm. Ikemomo's face was gloomy. Loser, you don't have the right to say that, do you? Kagaya said. At least I have the right to say that to you. You damn lowly bloodline, today I will. Just as Ikemomo was about to attack, Aizen walked out from behind the god tree. The spring was captured. According to the rules, I should be the next to go. Ikemomo-sama, you crossed the line. Ikemomo was instantly alert. The loser should be the first to go, but this guy was fighting with her. It meant that the opponent's target was probably Kagaya as well. There was no way around it. Kagaya was stupid, and had a lot of money. This bastard wants to take my fruit, Ikemomo thought. But before she had time to speak, she saw a space vortex appear in front of her. Garashi walked out of the vortex with Naruto and Sasuke, and said calmly, Otsutsuki Kagaya, shouldn't you return my disciple's body? Damn it, this guy is going to fight too. One Peach was depressed and couldn't help but say, I was the one who attacked first. Seeing that these bastards seemed to be treating her as prey, Huiyi was a little annoyed. Enough, what do you insects take me for? Can't you tell? Peach said sarcastically, you treat others as food, but in our eyes you are also food. Food. Huiyi looked around at the three people who had just appeared, and her heart kept sinking. From what she could sense, although the three of them could not compare to her at her peak, they were definitely stronger than the current her. Although he knew that the situation was unfavorable, Kagaya coldly shouted, What about Otsutsuki? Why aren't you coming out? As soon as he finished speaking, the entire place fell silent. Everyone looked at each other. Tonari frowned and asked, There's another Otsutsuki. What do you mean? Naruto and Sasuke muttered in their hearts. Could it be the Otsutsuki Mira style? The Otsutsuki Pushiki of the parallel world was already dead, but the Pushiki of this space-time had yet to appear. Seeing their reactions, Huiyi mocked them instead. You guys don't know? Oh, it seems that I'm not the only one being treated as prey. Rikudo was alert. Mother controls the Jubi, and can perceive the details that we can't detect. Dragon sure no longer concealed himself and walked out of the void. You deserve to be the biggest traitor in the history of Otsutsuki. You were the first to discover my existence. Peach shrugged. See, I said that this strategy is useless. For Otsutsuki, there's no need to think so much, just fight. The history of Otsutsuki? Although she felt a little strange about this statement, Huiyi didn't think much about it. Instead, she asked solemnly, Are you from the main clan? How come I've never seen you before? Were you born in the past 1,000 years? Dragonshire said calmly, Let me introduce myself first. My name is Otsutsuki Dragonshire, and I'm here to correct the mistake. Seeing Dragonshire's appearance, everyone in the shinobi world was shocked. The shell organization actually hit Otsutsuki. Damn it, this is troublesome. What are you afraid of? With Otsutsuki's arrogant character, if he was strong, he would have already come out to suppress the world. It makes sense. Maybe this guy is only at the level of Otsutsuki or Kinken. Aizen looked helplessly at the dragon style that had exploded in front of everyone. After he learned about Dragonshire's plan from Snake Sage, he was always on guard, ready to counterattack when Dragonshire attacked his main body. But the result? Someone who shouldn't have found out about Dragon Sure's existence. Although he felt a little regretful, he quickly calmed down. It's normal for plans to change, and it's impossible for everything to go as he expected. Moreover, he was also curious about Otsutsuki Dragon Sure. According to the information he got from Snake Sage, Otsutsuki Dragon Sure was obviously from the main clan. But even Peach and Ichibi didn't know about Dragon Sure's existence. Moreover, according to the information he got from Sasuke in the parallel world, there was no such thing as Otsutsuki Dragon Sure in their world. Although it could be a result of the changes in the world line, it was still a little strange. Also, Otsutsuki was too cautious, sneaking around, and even planning a sneak attack, which didn't seem like Otsutsuki's behavior. Just like Ichibi lost to him, but when they merged, his first reaction was to suppress him and his main body. This was the quality of an excellent Otsutsuki, an iron head. In addition, Otsutsuki's eyes flashed with complex emotions when he glanced at his main body, which made him very concerned. That kind of look was definitely not the reaction of a strange Otsutsuki. Correct the mistake? Garashi asked in a deep voice. What mistake do you want to correct? Dragon Sure tried not to look at Garashi and pretended to be calm. Of course, I want to correct the wrong development of this world, and let it return to its original track. Original track? The track that you invaders used as livestock? Rakuto asked. Ichibi sneered. Invaders? You're the descendant of the invaders. Seeing that Ichibi wanted to say something, Dragon Sure raised his right hand and looked at Rakuto. I know you're not convinced, so I'll give you a chance to start from scratch and compete with me fairly. Chapter 634. As his voice fell, a milky white halo enveloped the entire battlefield. The people who were enveloped by the halo didn't care at first, but soon their faces changed. What's going on? Why can't I move? Did this guy freeze us all? Are you kidding me? We have millions of ninjas here, as well as powerful Jonin and Kage. How can we be restrained by one person? Garashi's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. The binding power of this halo was so strong that even he couldn't break through it. However, he didn't panic, but looked at Ryushi with interest, waiting to see the other party's performance. Sure enough, after everyone tried to move, Ryushi laughed. Don't waste your energy. Under the light of the game, even I can't move, let alone you who are weaker than me. How about it, isn't it fair? Those who are weaker than me will be restrained like me. It turned out that he couldn't move either. Everyone was relieved at first, but soon noticed another detail. Those who are weaker than him will be restrained by the same strength. Doesn't this mean that he is the strongest in the field? Some people thought deeper. The other party is the strongest, but he chose this fair way of competition. It means that he is not strong enough to suppress everything. He needs to use this fairness to create an advantage for himself. Sasuke looked strange. Why is the other party's ability similar to his forced kidney deficiency dojutsu? In the midst of the discussion, Ryushi continued. Don't worry, there is a fairer way. My Rinnegan exclusive dojutsu will let you experience the beauty of starting from scratch. Starting from scratch? What do you mean? Tonari was puzzled. It means literally that all your abilities will be emptied and reset to the moment you were born. Ryushi laughed. Hearing him say this, everyone couldn't believe it. Releveling? We seem to have an advantage in cultivation. These Otsutsuki have lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and we have only lived for a few decades. Isn't it a loss for them to return to the same starting line? However, Rakuto said in a deep voice. Otsutsuki who awakened their bloodline, as long as they grow up normally, they will have the strength to cross the stars. Everyone was shocked and hurriedly asked, aren't we the same template? In other words, the results of our hard work in cultivation may not be comparable to the results of their daily eating and sleeping. This is too unfair. Longshore shrugged. Absolute fairness is absolute unfairness. Naruto and Sasuke's heart sank. Their current strength was the result of cultivation, bloodline, and adventures. Without the gift of Hagoromo, it would have been difficult for them to reach this height at this age. Although they had started cultivating from scratch, and should be able to reach this level of strength in 30 years, They did not think that the other party would give them that much time. Based on their understanding of Otsutsuki, before Otsutsuki reached adulthood, his strength changed almost every day, but after he reached adulthood, he basically had to rely on cultivation or external forces. Therefore, the duration of the game set by the other party was most likely within 20 years. In these 20 years, there was no way that his cultivation speed could keep up with the speed of his bloodline's transformation. Tongren asked in a heavy voice, "This eye technique of yours should be specially used to restrain teacher and that alliance leader, right? But I don't understand. When you use this eye technique, you also offset the gap caused by presiding over the sacred tree ceremony. When both sides have Otsutsuki, why do you think you can win?" For Otsutsuki, who could make his strength skyrocket by planting trees casually, the price-performance ratio of cultivation was too low. For Otsutsuki of the same bloodline, there was almost no difference between thousands of years old and dozens of years old. The only difference was that they had not planted trees before. And if they started from scratch, there was no sacred tree for them to plant. Originally, his strength was weaker than Ichiki, Mamashiki, and Ryushi, but without the influence of chakra fruit, there would be almost no difference in the strength of the four of them when they reached adulthood. Even under the influence of the problem maker ability, he believed that his strength when he reached adulthood should be stronger than the three, who only knew how to plant trees. Longshore did not avoid this question, but kindly explained, "It's very simple. I have a special catalytic method. I only need half of your time to reach adulthood. So, I will start the killing mode 10 years after the peaceful mode." Tongren took a deep breath and couldn't help but mock. "You are really fair." Longshore spread out his hands. "Then you can only blame yourself for not working hard enough. Who told your cultivation speed to be slow?" Tongren's mouth twitched crazily. A person who openly cheated actually said that he didn't work hard enough? Mamashiki was also somewhat dissatisfied. "Why do you have to go through so much trouble? With our strength, it's enough to suppress them." Longshore cursed in his heart. "Why do you ask? Isn't it because they don't trust your ability? If they fought normally, both sides needed to not drop the ball. If they followed his plan, it would be fine as long as he didn't pull his own leg. Did he believe in himself, or the trash recorded in the history of the clan? Was there even a need to say?" Of course he couldn't say this out loud. Longshore said with a smile, "In 10 years, even Shimizu Garashi can't grow to the same level as us. In other words, our main enemies have changed from Shimizu Garashi and Aizen Sosuke to Otsutsuki Tongren, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and Otsutsuki Kagaya. Who do you think is easier to deal with?" Mamashiki suddenly understood. "That's right, it is indeed easier for us Otsutsuki." With that, Mamashiki paused. He subconsciously felt that Otsutsuki was easier to deal with. Sure enough, the two earthlings left a deep impression on him. So much so that he would rather face the Otsutsuki clansmen than face the two monsters. Longshore snapped his fingers. "Now let the game begin." The milky white halo flashed, and the next moment, everyone felt that their whole body was emptied of energy. The method of refining chakra, and the hand seals to release ninjutsu were all forgotten. Although they already knew that this would be the result, the feeling of losing power still made everyone panic. "Damn, I can't even use transformation jutsu. Bloodline is inherited through awakening, but our cultivation is inherited through words and teaching. Now that everyone has forgotten the knowledge, how can we practice ninjutsu? Do we have to redevelop ninjutsu? Reshape the ninja cultivation system in 10 years? It's impossible to do. Damn, no wonder those bastards didn't put us in their eyes." Sure enough, only Otsutsuki can participate in the final battle. Amidst these panicked voices, Shushi had a strange expression on his face. At first, he was worried that Aizen would disappear because of this. But what he didn't expect was that although Aizen's identity was reset, his strength when he was born wasn't weak at all. Just like Otsutsuki, he was born holy. Chapter 635. Feeling the power in his body, Aizen thought to himself, "My current strength is still above that of Ryushi. If there were no restrictions in peace mode, I would have ended the battle early. Yes, You can't attack in peace mode, and this has been tested by some people. They surrounded Ryushi angrily, wanting to kill him while he was powerless, but they were restrained by an invisible force. Longsha ridiculed with an infuriating expression. Ho ho, a group of incompetent idiots have surrounded me. It's really scary. You. Enjoy the last 10 years of your life, trash. Hearing this, everyone was furious. Someone shouted, even if we can't hurt him, we have to harass him every day. We have to disturb him so much that he can't sleep, so that he can't awaken smoothly. Harass. Ryushi frowned slightly, but he quickly recovered and said with a smile, no matter how much you struggle, you will only slow down my transformation. You won't hurt me at all. Hatue. Under normal circumstances, Ryushi wouldn't be hit by a mere spit, but he just lost his power, and his perception was at its lowest point. Moreover, he didn't expect that the arrogant people of the future would do such a disgusting thing. Ryushi's face was gloomy. Which bastard spit on me? Everyone was excited. So spitting doesn't count as an attack? Watch my water release, big spit technique. Soon, everyone's anger developed in a strange direction. The original water release ninjas were doing their best. Although they lost their chakra, their talent in spitting was still stronger than others. For a while, spit covered the sky and the earth as they attacked Ryushi. Ryushi's face was gloomy. He used this ability to deal with the star clans, but he has never encountered such a low-quality crowd. Spit. Boring trick. Ryushi covered his mouth and said coldly, there is no fresh water or food on the moon. You are just accelerating your own destruction. As soon as he said this, the attack of spit stopped. Everyone was panicked. They had indeed neglected this important detail. Although they had brought half a month's worth of food, they were going to stay here for 10 years. Moreover, no one would carry vegetable seeds with them during a war. Even if they wanted to farm, they couldn't do it. Just when everyone was worried that they would starve to death, a deep and steady voice sounded. Would release. Orchard technique. In the next second, all sorts of fruit trees sprouted from the ground, bearing fruit at a wild speed. It was big and round, and the fragrance of fruit filled the air. Everyone's eyes widened. Wasn't chakra taken away? How could the leader use woodwalk? Right, I remember now. Asma clapped his hands. Garashi comprehended the method of refining chakra on his own back then, and he learned it on the first day of school. Unlike when he was young, he naturally understood the meaning of this performance. Hearing Asma's voice, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Sure enough, monsters would always be monsters from a young age. For an ordinary person, learning how to refine chakra in 3 to 5 days was already considered a genius. However, Garashi had managed to figure out how to refine chakra on his own within a day. He's too strong, as expected of the leader. I suddenly feel that Asma-sama is so pitiful. He has to live under the shadow of the leader since he was young. But there were still people who were puzzled. What about woodwalk? Can woodwalk be developed directly? Asma rubbed his chin. If it's Garashi, it's reasonable to develop it directly, right? Ryushi's expression was very interesting. Why did he feel that the speed of Otsutsuki's bloodline awakening was not necessarily comparable to the speed of the other party's cultivation? It was too outrageous. As expected of Clearwater Demon, fortunately, my growth speed is twice as fast as the normal Otsutsuki. Ryushi comforted himself, but he still felt insecure. No, I can't just wait for my bloodline to awaken. I have to cultivate too. Isn't it just cultivation? Who doesn't know how to do it? In the future, he was a famous problem maker in the Otsutsuki clan. Ichiki and Mamashiki had complicated expressions. Could it be that they, with their noble bloodlines, also had to learn and cultivate? For them, who were at the top of the food chain, hard work was simply a disgrace. After solving their worries, everyone became active again. Saliva attack ready. Don't throw away everyone's excrement, gather them and throw them at him. They had a very clear understanding of their position. With their strength as Chunin and Genin, even if they recovered their strength, it was impossible to have any impact on the enemy. It was better to harass the enemy as much as possible. Ryushi's face was distorted when he heard this. What's wrong with these earthlings? They were not satisfied with the level of disgust of saliva. Thinking of this, Ryushi could no longer bear it, and pushed away the crowd to escape. Seeing Ryushi running away in fear, Ichiki and Momoshiki were a little dumbfounded. Is this Otsutsuki from the main family a fool? Is this the big move that he spent so much effort to prepare? Running away like this, it's impossible to calm down and awaken. At this time, some people cast evil eyes at them, and Ichiki and Momoshiki ran away in fear. Such a cruel method of shitting on the head was really too heavy for them. Garashi's expression was strange. Otsutsuki, who could make the starry sky tremble, was chased by a group of Chunin and Genin. This development even he did not expect. However, he didn't stop them. Ryushi was the only one who was beyond his control, so he was very vigilant against him. Although the other party acted a little stupid, he didn't underestimate the enemy. Any method to weaken the enemy is allowed. After a little pondering, Garashi looked at Aizen. You should have recovered some of your strength, right? What? Do you want me to provide meat? Aizen smiled and snapped his fingers, and a table full of barbecue appeared in front of everyone. Seeing their leader use chakra, everyone in Hollow cheered, but they also felt some regret. It's a pity that the three Otsutsuki couldn't see this scene. Garashi smiled. This is only one thing. I want to say that with my current ability, I can't build the dream world alone. Aizen asked, do you want to cooperate with me? Garashi nodded solemnly. If we want to reconstruct the ninja system in 10 years, we can't do it with our individual ability. We can only rely on the wisdom of the collective. Aizen pretended to ponder for a moment, then slowly nodded under the expectant eyes of both sides. Yes. However, my suggestion is to integrate the native system and take this opportunity to turn chakra into a power that truly belongs to us. Chapter 636. Hearing Aizen's proposal, everyone's heart was excited. Since knowing Otsutsuki's existence, many people have resisted chakra, because chakra doesn't belong to them. As long as Otsutsuki wants to, he can take chakra away from them. Therefore, they were very tempted by Aizen's proposal. However, those who have been in contact with the other three systems shook their heads secretly. The reason why chakra can destroy the native system, besides Otsutsuki's influence, is that chakra is safe and easy to practice. Compared to the natural petrification of the sage technique, the contamination of the demon's body, and the erosion of the god's mind, chakra has almost no risk. As for the threshold, although there is a requirement to practice chakra, compared to the other three systems, the threshold is almost negligible. Seeing everyone's different expression, Aizen smiled and said, the risk of practicing the other three systems is indeed high. But isn't the dream world giving you a chance to try? Moreover, what we want to develop is a system that combines the advantages of the other four systems. A system that is truly suitable for us. Of course, we will consider the risk in the development process. Everyone was a little moved, but they didn't say anything. They looked at Garashi and waited for the leader to make a decision. For Soseki, the answer to this question was obvious. If a civilization's lifeline is in the hands of the enemy, there is no way to counterattack Otsutsuki. After a moment of silence, Garashi said loudly, everyone, for the future of our world, please use your wisdom and imagination. Everyone responded enthusiastically. Yes. Just like that, 10 years passed in a flash. In the sky, Ryushi's face was gloomy. In order to avoid those bastards' filth, after recovering some chakra, he quickly flew to the sky. Although floating in the sky doesn't affect his awakening, this kind of humiliation is something he will never experience in the future. Damn! I have to use this ability in the future to prevent such low-quality bastards. In the distance, Ichiki and Momoshiki also landed. Let's go, it's time to wash away the shame. It didn't take long for the three to arrive near the Ninja Alliance's base. The originally desolate land of the moon had become a farm and fruit garden. Vegetables and fruits were everywhere. As they approached the base, they could even smell the aroma of barbecued meat coming from the base. The veins on the three men's foreheads bulged. They were chased up into the sky and didn't dare to land for 10 years. But these bastards actually ate and drank well. treating the war as a vacation. Thinking of their tragic experiences in the past 10 years, Tao Shi immediately used Shinra Tensei to spread out in all directions. The surrounding farms and orchards were instantly destroyed. The greenery that had finally appeared on the surface of the moon was once again covered by sand and dust. 6 Dao and Tongren flew out with gloomy faces. After seeing the miserable situation around them, they were even more furious. Do you pests only know how to destroy? Oh, is this enough to make you angry? There are more interesting things that haven't started yet. Tao Shi grinned as he looked at the crowd behind them. He stretched out his right hand and pushed the crowd with a repulsive force. In all fairness, the strength he is showing now is far less than the strength he showed during the ninja tournament. However, the problem was that the recovery speed of the allied forces was much slower. The 6 paths hurriedly used his repulsive force to cancel out the Shinra Tensei, and a terrifying power exploded in the center of their collision. On the other side, Ichiki and Tongren were also fighting. Without the influence of the sacred tree sacrifice, the strength of the two was almost the same. To be precise, Ichiki's strength was even weaker. After all, one side was growing and cultivating happily, while the other side was suppressing his awakening with resentment. Of course, this gap wasn't enough to determine the winner in a short time. Therefore, Longshore didn't care about them and strode towards the center of the base. Although his growth speed was twice as fast as Ichiki's, his strength was far more than that. Otsutsuki's growth curve was in the shape of a T. The closer he was to adulthood, the stronger he would be. In the distance, Kaguya looked hesitant. No matter which side won, it wouldn't be good for her. The best result would be for both sides to die together. However, the possibility of that happening was very small. Thinking of this, Kaguya thought, I'll help whoever loses. Longshore was running rampant in the base. Seeing that Clearwater Demon was avoiding him, his confidence swelled. Clearwater, Aizen, are you still hiding? Suddenly, a sword flashed, and a pale golden crescent flew out of the base. Here it comes. Longshore grasped his temperament and raised his right hand, breaking the crescent with a light grab. The scattered energy waves washed over the area. Sure enough, he was stronger than Ichiki and Peach. Although he had already guessed this, Longshore's heart still twitched when his guess was confirmed. His cultivation speed was faster than his bloodline awakening speed. This made his view of the world shatter. Fortunately, it's still not as good as me. Longshore relaxed and quietly dispersed the multiple layers of protection on his right hand. His expression became more unrestrained. What? Only this kind of... Suddenly, he felt a strong sense of danger and subconsciously dodged to the side. The next moment, a large energy ball bombarded the place where he had been standing. It rumbled like thunder. Looking at the giant crater in the ground and the sudden appearance of Clearwater Demon, Dragon sure understood what was going on. He looked at Aizen in shock. Did you use an illusion to blur my perception? Aizen shrugged. I thought you were strong after being dormant for 10 years. Humph. It's just an illusion. Longshore snorted. Although he was still afraid, he felt relieved. The fact that the enemy used a sneak attack meant that they were weaker than him. As he spoke, Shushi suddenly teleported behind Longshore and kicked him in the back. Longshore's reaction was also very fast. He turned around in a flash and threw a punch at Shushi. Boom! Space trembled and thunder rumbled. Black cracks appeared in the area where their fists and feet collided. The two of them were in a stalemate for only a moment before Shushi was sent flying by his opponent's tremendous strength. But just as Longshore was about to follow up with another attack, Aizen appeared beside him and used the truth-seeking jade to stab at his waist. I've been waiting for you. Longshore laughed and tore off Aizen's right arm. However, Aizen didn't care. With a flash of light, the illusory arm instantly solidified. Illusory transformation? What a troublesome ability. Longshore frowned and felt a wave of light coming from behind him. He subconsciously slapped it away. Don't bother me. However, the wave of light exploded the moment it touched him. A terrifying energy storm blasted him away. Longshore stabilized himself and looked confused. Why did I use my hand to block his attack? While he was still confused, The wound on his right hand began to petrify and mutate. Seeing this, Longshore was so scared that he tore off his right arm. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead. Wait, isn't this Clearwater Demon's super god chakra from the future? He didn't know it 10 years ago. Why is he using it now? Longshore panicked. Was I the one who helped him grow? The more Longshore thought about it, the more frightened he became. Was I destined to return to the past? Chapter 637. Impossible, it's just a coincidence. Longshore's face was ferocious as he tried to wipe away the shadow in his heart. But once this thought was born, it was like bamboo shoots after a rain, growing wildly in his heart. Otsutsuki had the ability to travel through time, but he was the only one who successfully traveled back to this time. Was he really that special? No, it's not like that. Longshore crazily hypnotized himself. It must be because of the patriarch. It was the patriarch who sent me back to this era. What's wrong with this guy? Garashi was keenly aware of the other party's strangeness. Although he didn't understand why the other party was like this, he naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. Taking advantage of Longshore's distraction, he and Aizen rushed forward and rained punches on Longshore's body. Their attacks were so fast that it was difficult to see their afterimages. To outsiders, the scene in front of them looked like Longshore was having a seizure. His body was trembling and twitching nonstop. Get out of my way! Longshore endured the pain and released the chakra from his body. Garashi and Aizen were pushed back by the powerful momentum, giving Longshore a chance to breathe. Then, he spat himself out of the open mouth as fast as he could and finished shedding his skin. He knew that the other party's chakra was difficult to deal with. He could barely accept petrification and mutation, but the key was the mental attack, which was fatal in battle. Therefore, he didn't dare to let the chakra stay in his body for too long, and directly shed his skin. Damn these two bastards! Longshore cursed in his heart, but at the same time, he was full of fear. Before the rise of Clearwater Demon, it was easy for them to suppress the planets under their rule. Chakra was just their food. The riots caused by the people who used chakra as a weapon were like ordinary people fighting with breadsticks, weak and powerless. But what about these people? They contaminated chakra. Not only did they not have the advantage in the battle, but they also had their hands tied. Longshore took a deep breath and said in a deep voice as if to encourage himself, "Don't think that you can defeat me with chakra." Super God chakra? Garashi's heart skipped a beat. He had never been talented in naming things. He had indeed planned to name this new system Super God chakra, but he had not announced it. How did the other party know about it? Garashi had some guesses in his mind and said calmly, "This name sounds good. Let's call it Super God Chakra." Longshore panicked for no reason. This name was actually named by me? Could it be that my arrival is a part of the future? Seeing that Longshore still dared to be distracted after being distracted, Garashi almost had an answer in his heart. Did this guy come back from the future? With the precedent of kidney deficiency and filial son Bo, this conjecture was not absurd to him. Garashi nodded slightly. That explains his complicated emotions when he saw me for the first time. It seems that the future me should have left a rather deep impression on him. While Longshore was distracted, Garashi did not forget to take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Countless golden rays shot from his fingertips and almost turned Longshore into a sieve. Aizen's sword suddenly lengthened and held a 40-meter-long sword to cut Longshore in half. The continuous pain made Longshore recover from his panic and reattached his lower body, as if he was pulling up his pants. Longshore pressed his hands on his waist and was extremely angry. "You two damn bastards." He who claimed to be Otsutsuki's savior fell in the same place twice. Longshore took a deep breath, and his eyes were solemn. "I have figured it out. Not to mention that it's not the future. Even if it's fate, I will change it." At this moment, Garashi suddenly said, "Speaking of which, I really have to thank you. If you hadn't deprived us of our power, I wouldn't have bet 10 years on an uncertain future." Kacha! Longshore's heart was in chaos again. Garashi and Aizen launched another fierce attack. This is the game he prepared so carefully? Sure enough, Otsutsuki is a group of idiots with high combat ability. Longshore had the upper hand at the beginning of the battle, and was at a disadvantage for the rest of the battle. Kagaya, who was watching from a distance, was speechless. At this moment, she suddenly felt that her fear of her clan was too rigid. If she had known that the elites of Otsutsuki were like this, she would have seriously managed this planet. Kagaya sighed in her heart. She was just a low-level soldier of Otsutsuki. She didn't have access to the upper echelons of the family. She only knew about them through propaganda. He can't lose now, at least not so thoroughly. Kagaya muttered to herself and flew forward. On the other side, Longshore was beaten black and blue. He shouted in shame and anger. Damn it, if it wasn't for your chakra affecting my judgment, how could I be like this? Garashi was silent for a moment and looked at him, as if he was an idiot. Actually, I have turned off the function of the IQ reduction halo. Longshore's pupils shook. What did you say? How is that possible? Garashi sighed. Because it doesn't matter to you whether it reduces your intelligence or not. Longshore almost doubted his life. Am I an idiot? What savior of Otsutsuki? Is he just the tallest among the shortest? As he spoke, Garashi and Aizen covered him with another round of fire. Kagaya flew between the two sides and blocked Garashi's attack. She warned loudly, don't be fooled by them. The effect of chakra has never stopped. Longshore suddenly woke up. Yes, how can I believe the enemy's words? It must be the effect of the IQ reduction. Thinking of this, Longshore finally regained his sense of self. I understand. I won't be affected by your words anymore. However, Garashi said faintly, don't you think it's too late to understand now? Aizen used words to provoke him. You are no longer our opponent. Longshore was shocked. Only then did he realize that his strength had declined to the point where he was on par with the enemy after his repeated golden cicada shell shedding and sneak attack. Although Kagaya joined them, her strength had only returned to Otsutsuki's normal level. She couldn't compare to either of them. Not to mention, their cooperation was far inferior to the enemy's. Kagaya also realized that her actions were a little too late. She quickly reminded him. If you have any other abilities, use them quickly. Otherwise, we can only temporarily retreat. Retreat? Longshore rejected the idea without even thinking about it. With their cultivation speed, if we retreat this time, we won't have another chance. So, for the sake of Otsutsuki, I have to ask you to sacrifice yourself. Chapter 638. Kagaya, who was carefully guarding against the enemy, was shocked. What do you mean? Without waiting for her to respond, Ryushi slapped her back. Kagaya spat out a large mouthful of blood, and her aura weakened at a speed visible to the naked eye. Are you crazy? You are forcing me to betray you. Kagaya was shocked and angry, completely unable to understand Ryushi's thoughts. Her strength was weaker than Ryushi, but not to the point where she couldn't resist. Wouldn't it be suicide to do so, when there was a strong enemy outside? Did Ryushi expect her to give up struggling for the sake of Otsutsuki's future? However, Ryushi's eyes were indifferent. You don't understand anything. Betray Otsutsuki? Such a thing doesn't exist. As soon as his voice fell, a strange power suddenly erupted from Kagaya's body. Under the influence of this power, Kagaya's body began to shrink, and then she was sucked into Ryushi's mouth. Garashi naturally wouldn't sit back and watch her increase her strength. But when he and Aizen teleported to Ryushi's side, they saw Ryushi accelerating the absorption of Kagaya, and a powerful force erupted from his body and blasted them away. Garashi landed on the ground with a dignified expression. He could naturally see that Kagaya was being controlled by a force. That power even came from within her body. Otherwise, she wouldn't be swallowed so easily. Is this a method developed by the Otsutsuki clan in the future to suppress traitors? Or was it long ago, but they kept it a secret? Garashi frowned. This was not recorded in the memories of the parallel world. However, he could understand. Although the Otsutsuki clan was a noble high-ranking warrior, Ryushi's ability was too terrifying. It was something that no Otsutsuki could accept, and it was destined that only a few people could know about it. But there is one thing that is strange. If Ryushi can control Otsutsuki without restrictions, then why doesn't he control Tonari and Rakuto? Or is there some difference between Kagaya and Tonari and Rakudo? Garashi's eyebrows drooped, and he thought to himself, is it because of planting trees? If that's the case, then one of the remaining Otsutsuki can also become his puppet, Otsutsuki Ichiki. The four people who were in the middle of a fierce battle also noticed the movement here, and their faces all changed. Although they didn't notice the changes in Huiye's body up close like Garashi did, they still felt a trace of strangeness. Even if it was a sneak attack, Huey shouldn't have been devoured so quickly, right? However, Ishir did not express his confusion. Instead, he deliberately provoked the other party. Although there was an accident at the beginning, now we are finally back on track. After swallowing Huiyi, Longshire's strength is definitely not comparable to those two humans. Are you ready to witness their defeat? Chimran's eyes were firm. He said concisely, teacher will definitely win. Compared to the confrontation between the two of them, Peach's style was a simple matter of having a foul mouth. F*CKU. The six Dao's mouth twitched, and he corrected. Only a part of her consciousness. Mother's real body is still sealed. After absorbing bright night, Dragon Form's originally weak aura instantly soared. Aha! Dragon Form roared loudly, as if he wanted to vent the surging power in his body and the pent-up aura in his chest. Dragon Form looked up, and his gaze shot towards the two like a sharp sword. Sorry for making you wait so long. Aizen narrowed his eyes. I thought you would say something about trampling us under your feet. Dragon Form's expression was calm. Any emotional fluctuation can become your weapon. Before I kill you, I will not be angry again. As expected, it's not easy to fool you. Garashi sighed and shot a beam of light towards Dragon Form. However, the beam of light changed direction as it approached Dragon Form, as if it was bounced off by an invisible barrier. So this is it. Dragon Form waved his sleeves and said indifferently, as expected, I should have used absolute power to kill you from the beginning. Although I understood this a little late, it's not too late. First, let's start with you. Dragon Form looked at Aizen, and the powerful chakra suppressed the surrounding space and time. Then, Dragon Form stepped forward, teleported in front of Aizen, and tore him in half. The void fluctuated, and Aizen's body instantly solidified. Before he could react, Dragon Form caught up and killed him again. No matter how many times you revive, I will kill you. Dragon Form's voice was calm as if he was stating a fact. What a rare situation. Garashi muttered to himself. He suppressed the thought of merging with Aizen, and attacked Dragon Form. Although he had easily defeated Aizen twice, Dragon Form did not dare to underestimate the infamous Clearwater Demon of the future. He punched Garashi with all his strength. Garashi's body exploded into a bloody mist. But in the next moment, the scene of him exploding was rewound like a movie. Time reversal. Dragon Form was not surprised. Even Aizen had such a life-saving method, so it was reasonable that Shimizu Garashi could reverse time to revive. As long as I pay attention, don't let him reverse my state to before I devoured Kagaya. The next scene was Dragon Form chasing after the two like a game of whack-a-mole. Whenever he saw someone revive, he would quickly punch them. Seeing this, the Ninja Alliance and Hollow became anxious. Regardless of the huge gap in strength between the two sides, they rushed forward with red eyes. Even if we die, we must consume his strength. By time for the two leaders. However, the gap in strength between them and Dragon Form was too big. Even the five Kages, Naruto, and Sasuke couldn't do anything to him. Seeing those despicable earthlings dying under his attack, Longshire's mood was incomparably happy. Even Clearwater Demon was killed by him more than a dozen times. He felt that he had reached the peak of his life. In this case, even if he tried to suppress the joy in his heart, he couldn't help but laugh. Haha, do you think you can stop the torrent of fate? While laughing loudly, Dragon Form was a little regretful. It's a pity that I can't let those people in the future see the scene of me beating Clearwater Demon. If history is revised, people in the future will only know that he defeated a native of a primitive planet, but they won't know that he saved Otsutsuki. The feeling of walking in the dark is really unbearable. Ryushi's heart itches unbearably, so he can only complain to these ninjas in front of him who are destined to be dead. Fate is really wonderful. Who would have thought that the universe emperor who dominated the starry sky in the future time and space would be defeated by me, a nobody? Chapter 639. Hearing Ryushi's happy confession, even Garashi's expression became strange. Is the title of the Emperor of the Universe for him? However, recalling his previous nicknames like Hexagonal Warrior, he suddenly didn't feel strange. Naruto coughed up blood and asked, "The Emperor of the Universe? What the hell are you talking about?" Ryushi laughed loudly. "It's okay to tell you now. I did come from the Otsutsuki clan, but not from this time and space, but from the future." Hearing Ryushi's words, everyone was shocked. From the future? However, it wasn't the first time they met someone from the future, and the surprise quickly calmed down. On the contrary, Ichiki and Momoshiki felt that Ryushi had a strong purpose. Hearing that he came from the future, the confusion in their hearts was suddenly solved. So it turned out to be to change the future? However, how bad would the future situation be for our family to make such a desperate decision? Ryushi continued. As for the Emperor of the Universe, it's the man behind you, Shimizu Garashi. He almost disintegrated our rule with his own strength. In just a few hundred years, he made this primitive planet replace Otsutsuki's position in the starry sky. No, it's even far more than that. He formed the Star Alliance in this star field, united the scattered small and medium-sized forces, defeated our clan, and became one of the most powerful forces in the starry sky. Because of this, he was crowned the title of the Emperor of the Universe. Everyone couldn't believe it. If it wasn't from the enemy's mouth, even they themselves would find it hard to believe that such a future would happen to them, because it was too absurd. But thinking about it seriously, such a development seems to be very reasonable. The leader has always been the best one, whether it's with Leaf, the ninja world, or the starry sky. Moreover, forming an alliance sounds very much like what a leader would do. Although he also thought that Shimizu Garashi would be a great threat to Otsutsuki, it was impossible for him to imagine that the Otsutsuki clan, which had dominated the starry sky for more than 100,000 years, would be destroyed in just a few hundred years. Rakuto was relieved. I have made many small mistakes in my life, but I have made the right choice. I sealed my mother-founded ninja and chose Garashi. Then, his gaze became firm and resolute. For the sake of this world's future, even if I have to risk the complete annihilation of my soul, I will protect Shu Sure. In this impetuous atmosphere, Ryushi laughed loudly. Unfortunately, your glorious future will soon be ruined. You have no future. Seeing Ryushi's arrogance, Momoshiki frowned slightly. Why did it feel that Ryushi's intelligence was reduced again? Didn't he said that he wouldn't have emotional fluctuations? However, they weren't worried. In the current situation, Ryushi can't lose. At this time, Aizen, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly asked, "It seems that the future doesn't have my name?" Ryushi shrugged. "You are indeed a very powerful person. If you can live to the future, you may become a great person on par with Shimizu Garashi. Unfortunately, the future doesn't have your track. In my opinion, you most likely lost to Shimizu Garashi in the original battle." "Only on par?" Aizen shook his head slightly and smiled. "Sure enough, the only one who can defeat me is myself." Ryushi was puzzled. "Yourself?" Aizen ignored him and turned to Garashi. "About my identity, you should have some idea, right? After all, I've personally led you to my hometown to take a look." Garashi said in a deep voice, "How should I address you? Sosuke Aizen? Or Shimizu Garashi from a parallel world?" In the crowd, Obito's eyes widened, and his heart went crazy. "I guess right? So Aizen is really a senpai from a parallel world." Ryushi was confused. A parallel world? There's something even he didn't know. "A name is just a code name. You can call me whatever you want," Aizen said indifferently. Hearing Aizen's admission, everyone was in an uproar. They didn't even care about the current critical situation. The two strongest forces in the shinobi world are actually the same person. This is too shocking. "Idiot. I said he's the leader of a parallel world." Momoshiki was even more surprised. "Like I said, how could those inferior creatures give birth to two monsters that surpass Otsutsuki in the same era? That makes sense." Aizen continued. We are two sides of the same world. I tend to be extreme, but you are too gentle. If one person is willing to sacrifice himself, the one who receives his power will break through the limit and reach the true limit. Garashi took a deep breath. I understand, you will receive my power. However, Aizen laughed. Since there is a perfect future to choose from, why should I gamble with an uncertain fate? Come, take my will to the top of the starry sky. After saying that, Aizen turned into a light and flew towards Garashi. Seeing this situation, everyone's hearts were greatly shaken. Ai muttered to himself. He didn't hesitate to give up his life. What great courage! Minato sighed. As expected of the parallel world's Garashi, this kind of tolerance is really shocking. Yes, it's really shocking. Ryushi clapped his hands. But suddenly his face changed dramatically. What the fuck? Damn it, I must have been affected by that evil will again. No, I can't let them succeed. Thinking of this, Ryushi's power boiled, and he immediately wanted to freeze time and space. But at this time, Garashi suddenly shouted, Niji, stop him! Niji, who was possessed by Kagaya and was swallowed by Ryushi, suddenly woke up. Is Sensei calling me? Although his willpower was very weak, dragon form was also under the influence of the intelligence-lowering halo. With both sides working together, dragon form suddenly lost control of his body. On the other side, Aizen flew towards Garashi and said, Tonari Karen, from now on, treat him as me and work for my will. Tonari's eyes were red. Impossible. I only know Aizen-sama. Even if I die, please let me follow you. After saying that, Tonari turned into a red light and followed. Six Path's expression changed. Something's wrong. He wants to use his power to affect the balance and force Aizen's will to gain the upper hand? Thinking of this, Six Paths also turned into a light and flew towards Garashi. Take it, this is my last chakra. Chapter 640. Seeing Norihito and Rikudo turn into chakra. The rest of the people were infected by their faith and shouted that they wanted to give their power to Seiji. But the problem is, they don't have the body structure of Otsutsuki, so they can't transform their power into chakra. On the other side, Ryushi finally broke free from the influence of Niji's halo, but it was too late to stop it. Looking at Shushi's aura skyrocketing and overlapping with the image of Clearwater Demon in his mind, Longshire's heart couldn't help but beat violently. How could this be? Could it be that Shimizu Shushi didn't defeat Aizen? Ryushi muttered to himself, suddenly remembering that Aizen's information was completely blocked, and the fog in his heart finally dissipated. I understand, after the war, he erased other people's memories of the war, not to damage Aizen's reputation, but to guard against me. I have long been a part of this closed loop of time. Thinking of this, Ryushi was almost desperate. If even his arrival was a part of fate, then how could he resist? However, as someone who came from a more desperate era, Otsutsuki wasn't going to sit still and wait for death. Holding the mentality of a broken jar, Longshire said to himself with a ferocious expression, Even if I die, I will peel off a layer of skin from your body. Isn't it just eating? If you eat, I will eat too. Ryushi teleported to Uchishi's side and reached out to grab him. Uchishi was in a mess when he suddenly saw Ryushi grabbing him. He couldn't help but shout, Ryushi, what do you want to do? Ryushi grabbed Uchishi's hands. For Otsutsuki's future, give me your power. Uchishi tried to resist. You came from the future, took the initiative, and made a mess of things. You are simply a waste. It is not reliable to give power to a waste like you. Ryushi's mouth twitched slightly. He now suspected that Uchishi's disgrace in the family history was because of him. After all, his information would be blocked by Shimizu Garashi, and only Uchishi's information could be spread. Of course, he would certainly not give up the important task of saving Otsutsuki. Uchishi still wanted to say something, but suddenly his face changed. My power? What did you do to me? Ryushi's tone was cold. Have you ever wondered why our patriarch wanted to share the chakra fruit with you? You mean when he distributed the chakra, he left a back door in the chakra? Correct. Unfortunately, there is no reward. After devouring Uchishi's power, Ryushi reached hand. Although Achushi hasn't been able to resist, his strength was still far from Ryushi's power. He was almost unable to resist Two's power. He was devoured, almost couldn't resist. He looked was power he's was to see a huge energy ball to stooze him. The S's was S%. S. Longshore opened his mouth and spat out a bunch of profanities. He was wondering why the process of absorbing the power of the peach style was so smooth. It turned out that it was waiting for him here. In his mind, he quickly recalled the records related to the Vitality Bomb. It was the bloodline snare developed by Clearwater Demon King. It was a super powerful attack after absorbing the vitality of all living beings. For experts at their level, their vitality was terrifyingly strong. It was not difficult for them to come back from the dead. However, if they were destroyed by the primordial chi bomb, they would truly be annihilated. They would not be resurrected, unless the other party had retained fragments of their body during the attack. Damn it, I can't think of a way. Longshore's heart beat violently, and his breathing became more and more rapid. But at this moment his eyes suddenly lit up. That's right, Clearwater Demon King can borrow the vitality of all living beings, but I can also borrow Bright Knight's strength. Thinking of this, Dragon Form used the part of Bright Knight chakra in his body to connect with Bright Knight's main body under the moon's seal, forcibly stealing Bright Knight's power. In the next moment, an energy ball as large as the primordial energy bomb took shape in his hand. Seeing that both sides had concentrated all their strength into this attack, the people who were lying on the ground after sacrificing their vitality broke out in cold sweat. A collision of this level wouldn't destroy the planet under their feet, right? In the half-expectant and half-frightened eyes of everyone, the two huge energy balls collided together. Boom! Everyone felt their souls tremble, and their consciousness became muddled. They fainted directly. Only a few people could barely stay awake under such a fierce collision. In their field of vision, a stalwart figure stood in front of them, opened a shield, and blocked the aftermath of the battle. They didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but they seemed to hear Longshore's screams and curses. It seemed to be because of someone named Kimimaro. But who was Kimimaro? After an unknown amount of time, the crowd woke up one after another. Is the battle over? Who won? It must be the leader who won. If the enemy won, do you think you can wake up? It seems to be the case. Wait, this is... Everyone was shocked to find that they were standing in the starry sky, and under their feet were the floating remains of a planet. The moon was really broken. We can breathe in here. Is it because of the leader? By the way, where is the leader? Suddenly, a little light came from the dark starry sky. This light expanded infinitely, dazzling like the sun, and everyone couldn't open their eyes. Finally, these lights retracted, and Garashi's figure replaced them. This is my current strength. Garashi closed his eyes and felt the surging power in his body. After absorbing the entire battlefield and all of Otsutsuki's chakra, his strength had reached a peak. Even he himself couldn't judge how strong he was now. If I erupt with all my strength, maybe I can make some smaller stars fall into extinction? Garashi commented in his heart, and with a step, he returned to the crowd. Everyone was ecstatic, and when they were about to ask the doubts in their hearts, Garashi raised his index finger. Wait a moment, let me move the wrong track back to the right track. The next moment, Rakuto, Tonari, Niji, Kimimaro, and everyone who was killed by Longshore were all resurrected. The resurrected people were at a loss, not knowing what happened. The rest of the people were stunned for a moment, and then they were ecstatic. Ningji, I thought you were dead for sure. You seem to have died again. Why are you dying so frequently? Brother Tonari, Lord Aizen he. Just as everyone was getting excited, an incomparably terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the center of the shattered moon. A noble and elegant figure flew out from the meteorite, and looked at Garashi with cold eyes. Obviously this look was not a kind one. Everyone's heart trembled, and sure enough there was a big battle. They looked at the figure in front of them with some worry. The leader just used such a powerful move. Would he still have the strength to fight? It's all thanks to you guys. I've finally been released from endless loneliness, and in return Puff. Before she finished speaking, Garashi teleported in front of Kaguya and punched her in the stomach. Kaguya's eyes bulged, and she spat out a large mouthful of blood, directly losing the ability to fight. Then Garashi flew back with Kaguya by her collar. Everyone stared at Kaguya, wondering if she was someone else using a transformation technique to disguise herself. Kaguya was supposed to be the strongest in her complete form, but she was defeated with one punch. It was inexplicable. Kaguya's eyes were empty, and she looked like she was asking, "Where am I? Who am I? What am I doing?" He was doubting his life. Garashi brought Kaguya in front of the 6 paths. "Immortal, what do you think should be done with Kaguya?" The 6 paths looked at Kaguya with a complicated expression, then sighed. "Mother has done many wrong things, let's just kill her." A mother and a filial son. Garashi thought for a moment. Logically speaking, she should be put to death. But since she still has some achievements in this world, and she is your mother, I will spare her life and take away her power instead. With that, Garashi dispersed Kaguya's power. 6 paths and Severin, who had absorbed 90% of the chakra, were once again filled with chakra. As for the others, they didn't have any direct hatred for Kaguya. If they had to talk about hatred, it could only be Niji. But of course, Niji wouldn't deny Garashi's proposal, so no one raised any objections. After dealing with Kaguya's matter, Garashi looked around at everyone. Everyone, an era of humiliation has ended. From today onwards, we are no longer Otsutsuki's cattle and sheep, but their gravediggers, and we will bury their era. Listen, the horn to counterattack Otsutsuki has been blown. Everyone was excited, and they shouted, "Counterattack Otsutsuki!" End of book. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.